Katerina. Welcome on the Looped In podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I'm really excited to have your perspective because obviously for the Retail Re-Engagement podcast, the perspective of somebody who's been in the space for so long and really has this holistic view on the marketing funnel, I think is very interesting. It's very different. We've had perspectives of people focused on CRM, focused on clienteling, but I feel like with you, we can really see how everything ties in together. So I'm really excited to dive into this together.
Hi, Ness. Thank you so much. What a pleasant introduction. It's like, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be here as well. I'm sure it's going to be a fun time that we're going to have together. I know we have similar views on several things when it comes to customer and engagement and omnichannel and marketing. So I hope your listeners will enjoy it as much as we will.
To set a little bit of that context, could you share a bit about some of the brands that you've worked with? Because I know that a lot of them have very, very strong identity, and I feel like there's definitely common threads in your career that have informed what's your perspective now. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about this.
I have been working in marketing for many years now. I'm a senior marketing director, and I have been in several global luxury houses, mostly fashion. I didn't start my career in marketing, but I pivoted at some point, which I'm very happy about that. So since I did that, I joined Bulgari, then I moved into Dolce Gabbana, then Alexander McQueen, and lastly Tom for Fashion. I joined, I must say, in moments of brand evolution, and that's something that really shaped my career. Every role had its own context, but as you said, the common thread was that they were all creative-led businesses. So my role has always been that of balancing creative vision, championing that brand identity and equity while building commercial success and driving that transformation, whether that is international expansion, evolution of the customer journey, consumer engagement strategies, leadership changes, brand repositioning. So have seen marketing from the very different points of view, and I have seen brands very different to each other, but each facing the same opportunity and challenge. How do we take that very strong brand in a way that resonates with the consumer?
Do you mean that in the balance between commercial and brand, the brand had a bit of a bigger role within those organizations?
Yes, because the business I have been with, they have creative directors who really they were either the founders or they continued the legacy of the founder. So there's a very strong identity, history, storytelling, and the creative director and the team, the creative team, are the ones setting the tone and giving that wealth of storytelling that you as a marketeer have to translate, have to respect, and then have to grow. So there is a higher force, let's say, that shapes the course of those brands.
It's a very classic maison. It is interesting for people who want to understand the different type of organizations within the fashion industry and luxury industry, because to your point, there are organizations where marketing can actually own their creative role and have ideas of where do they want to take the brand. But here you're saying with those brands, it's really not how it works, right?
No, your job as a marketeer is to grasp that message. Obviously, you fine tune, there's conversations, it's not a one-way street. But your job is to grasp and translate it and amplify it. But essentially, you are within an ecosystem and you need to respect and honor that ecosystem.
I see, but it was truly for you a unique vantage point because those environments also were going through their own transformation.
So yeah, obviously, the world of luxury has evolved dramatically. We moved from very small luxury houses to global powerhouses, right? Where, the turnovers are really at the level of very big FMCG companies, even though we have very different price points. So I think, what I have observed is that transformation from how do we control the narrative. So that's what luxury fashion was about. We need to control the narrative, and that's who we are. But now we are moving to how do we meet the customer where they are. So this is who we are, But it's not that broadcasting this anymore, bringing it to where the customers are. Now the audience of the brand communications is the customer. It's not the industry, it's not trade, it's the customer across geographies and across channels.
It was very much of a peer-led communication. And within that, what's the biggest shift in terms of how those brands are engaging customers? There seems to be, if I'm understanding correctly, this dynamic that is very much a top-down approach. The creative sharing the image to the customer and the marketeers having to translate. But is there any space for bottom up? Is that part of that transformation?
That's exactly what, you grasped the point. So you would have from one side the comms and the PR teams building the brand reputation, having the media relations, and then you have the rest of the marketing. You could call it retail marketing, events, experiential, CRM, digital marketing, media, whatever, all the different touch points that would sit differently. They would be the different teams and the different managers with different KPIs, different budget, different sources of truth, misaligned objective. This is changing the idea of integrated marketing now. We understand that the person that the PR team is speaking to is the same person who is Googling and is being served an ad. And it's also the same person who is reading an article in Financial Times and sees your ad. And it's also the same person who goes into your store on a multi-brand and experiences your brand. So I'm seeing that shift, that understanding that is not anymore about experiencing the brand in silos, that we have our beautiful campaign and we have one audience seeing it, and then there's another audience that is seeing that level of our brand. The consumer doesn't experience their brand in silos. They expect to see showing up the same across all the channels. The silos are slowly being broken down. Teams are coming together.
How is this visible organizationally?
It is feasible when teams are coming together under one umbrella. And I work in marketing, so I would like to think that the right umbrella is the CMO. I do see marketing as a growth engine. Marketing is a function that is supposed to know the customer and is supposed to gather insights from their different sources and feeding into strategy. So yes, it's a tough one because it's not only organizational structure, it's also budget allocation and KPIs and expectation management. But I do see this coming together, as I said, this integrated marketing.
Would you say that the creative director is the guardian of the brand and the CMO is the guardian of the customer?
That's what I'm seeing more and more. Yes. That is the guardian of the customer, is the one understanding and catering the customer, feeding that to the creative. And the creative also then feeds back to the customer. It's not the creative imposes and then you just have to execute. You're also bringing things back to the creative because you are supposed to know your customer and your channels the best as a CMO.
How do you manage marrying commercial and distilling the brand, right? So when you're talking to those customers, there is this aspect of having to focus on the conversions, but the conversions can definitely be a bit of a short-term objective, but the brand and how much engagement there is with that brand on the long term, that's your long-term objective, right? So how do you marry the two?
With a full funnel marketing approach, you build your mindsets and you train your CEO and your CFO to understand the notion of the full funnel. You understand that brand feeds conversion and conversion feeds the brand. You structure your budget, you structure your teams into building a brand and then activating all the channels below it to serve the brand. Beautiful campaign with amazing creative talent. Probably it will not work anymore. You need to activate all the channels and everybody needs to play a role like you would be in a relay race. So everybody needs to pass the baton in order to get to the finish line.
And I think it's interesting because this understanding of the customer, the understanding of the audience is truly what can help also build that brand, right? So it's really not just understanding the customer in order to communicate to the customer, but also understanding the customer in order to build the right strategy, the right company. Because of that history of the overarching, powerful creative director, there's so much space for gut. Do you think that this is now really being replaced by a data-led approach?
Yes, very much. I think gut is less being trusted on. We are seeing big groups, big houses building attribution models with a very, very rigid scientific approach. We are creatives. We are telling a story. We're not only selling a product, but we understand the power of the channel. So we are trying to see which are the channels that will bring the message close to the consumer and which are the channels that will build the equity and which are the channels that will bring the conversion and which are the channels that will bring the loyalty. So it's not anymore that people are buying what we are selling. I have seen that and I'm really, really confident. And that's, how I have built my career by championing and promoting that data-led approach. We need to understand who our customers are, the potential customers, where are they? And the ones that we have missed, where are they now? Why did we miss them? God is being replaced more and more. And that's a good thing if you ask me.
Practically, how do you do this? Does this have to do with also a digital transformation that we see in the industry? Because how did you get access to this data before? From a marketing perspective, how has digitization changed the way the Maison operates and how they operationalized marketing?
Again, when we're talking about the organizational structure, it's the same as the data structure. Again, in the past, you had sources of data available to different people. So you have in the store the sales associates with their own little black book holding information about the clients, and only they knew it. And then you have the digital teams, the e-commerce teams that would have information only to what clients are buying on their e-commerce. And then you would have the digital marketing team that would only look at the Google Ads performance and leads and GA data. And these were all separate. And then you have finance who will have completely different revenue than the rest of the organization. And, these would never speak to each other. But now businesses are investing into digital platforms. Data are being brought together globally and across system, and everybody has access to it. And it's not only purchase data, it is behavioral data. It's all sorts of triggers that are coming from all different channels that are being put into one place. And that's where the next level of transformation is. Now that we have this data together, who activates it? And that's the role of the CMO, to activate this data, share within the organization.
Would you say that there's two priorities? One is using this data correctly, and the other one is ensuring the data sources are of quality and are plentiful enough?
Yes, I think you need to have the foundation to be able to activate, but equally, a pitfall I have seen is investing too soon into sophisticated platforms that will do miracles, but then you don't have the use cases or you don't know what you are after. Or yes, you don't have the totality of the data. You collect data only from one side and you think that's so good, I'm doing great, I have every single trigger from online, but what happens in store? What happens on social media? Where are these?
Well, that's one of my big topic of interest is really the fact that I think that people are just really looking at e-commerce as an area where data is so prolific and forgetting completely about the physical world, especially in the luxury space, is a space where most of the transactions happen, but where there is actually a big scarcity of data. But it's funny that you talk about the platforms because it's so true. You could have the best CDP in the world, but if you put crap in it, nothing good is going to come out of it, right? Also in line with changes that I've seen happening at Google, looking at creating the merchant center as the key source of truth.
I think this is a big blind spot that we still haven't solved in many businesses because very basic example, you go online, you browse something and then you leave it in your basket. You will receive immediately an email telling you, don't forget this in your basket. And I was doing that maybe with not real intent because I was in the tube browsing, I was bored, so I was looking at dresses. But then what happens to the customer, me again, who take time out of the busy day to go into a store and I abandon my basket there. I browse and I don't buy for whatever reason. Who captures that information? Who follows up with me? How do they identify me? This is a very big blind spot. And it's not only, obviously, there's an element of education of the stores and the people who work in them, but also the tools available out there to capture that demand.
You've been lucky, I think, to be in organizations that are quite advanced, though, in terms of the tooling that is in store. When we think about Zegna and Tom Ford, it's definitely the best in class, I would say, in the whole industry. Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys are collecting in the store and the type of tools what you think might be missing within this tech stack as well.
Yeah, it's not only specific, to Tom Ford, Xenia, Caring is very advanced, where I have been. So we are becoming very good at collecting personal information, and we know very well the existing customer. So once you become a customer, we are very good at collecting this information and collecting insights and building that relationship. We are not very good yet, or as good as we would like to be, into that potential customer, the one who comes but does not transact. That is still an element that many brands have not addressed completely. And, if you look at, conversion rates in store, maybe you have 1 out of 10 converting, 2 out of 10 converting luxury. So it means that every single day you miss 80% of potential source of data. So that's what we are missing. And even if we collect data of those prospect customers, it will be, personal information, not intent or what are they looking for or something that we could feed into our systems to try to reconnect. So yeah, lots of room of improvement there into the capturing of unrealized demand.
Yeah, unrealized demand. I love that term. But and for the existing customer, so there's truly a big understanding of the customer because those organizations have done a tremendous job translating the old little black book into a technology-driven world, right? How does understanding of products at customer level come into play? With the role of the physical store, can that also really feed into that strategic insights and product development? When I think about the 80% of customers who walk in and don't purchase anything, if we were to actually understand what they would have liked, and we produce products for that demand.
There's immense potential because the same way we are doing social listening, right, on social media, we understand what our perhaps target audience says about us. And we are not even sure if they're our target audience because, they didn't take the time to engage with us. They're just talking about us. So why are we not listening the people who are actively engaging and they are trying to buy something from us, but eventually they don't? What is it that we are missing? Is it pricing? Is it product? Is it sizing? Is it fit? Is it experience? Where's the friction? That's a very tricky one to
I
address.
love it. I'd never heard this before. It's the social listening. Those customers are not even as engaged as the customers who are in the store. So what is it? Is it the physical listening? That's so fun.
I like the physical listening. It's a new term. Let's introduce it from social listening to physical listening.
With the importance of this data, it really links into the rise of first-party data strategy as a key topic within the industry, right? How have you seen it evolved, and how do you see it supporting brand growth today? Because 7 years ago, I don't think there was any discussion around first-party data strategy. How do you see it supporting brand growth today?
Right now we cannot acquire data as easily. So we cannot rely on third-party data. So we are going back to first-party data. And, it is a buzzword. Some people don't even know what it means in the organization. You would speak to senior leaders and say, what is first-party data? But now it's becoming more accessible as a term. It's essentially the data that you have and you have consent. Somebody has given you willingly this data. And I'm not only talking about contact data, I'm talking about app usage and behavioral data online and intent in store and sizing and interactions and family relations and social relations. So everything is very rich. It's yours. You own it. You validate it. People are telling you, use it. It has helped the marketing department become an insight department. So you are the one, as we said, putting this all together and informing the business of what is going on. So first party data is not a reporting tool anymore. So we are not doing reporting just to say we grew our customers by X% and this happened. And this is a percentage of clients who drop online at payment, blah, blah. It is a growth engine. You use it to understand what you need to solve or what you can capitalize on to drive further growth.
So for you, the insights function really sits below CMO. And how does that play with organizations that have a chief data officer? Do you think that in terms of organizational design, you would design it differently?
It varies obviously from organization and where the power sits and where the systems sits. But to stay politically correct, I would say there has to be a synergy. Either they sit together or they work together. Or there could be someone who structures the data and safeguards it, and there's somebody who harnesses it. And from my experience, I have seen that people see things from different angles, and it's very good to have that. I'm not saying that the marketing should only own the data, but marketing has a 360 view. So they should be able to harness it and present them in a way that makes sense.
And also, when you're talking about collection design, merchandising, this also shouldn't sit different separately because we need a customer-centric approach to collection design and merchandising as well, right? So I think it's interesting when we have insights team where marketing as an insights team, commercial as an insights team, and those teams actually don't talk to each other. So your perspective of that holistic guardianship of the customer as an audience and the impact that that has on strategic direction from insights is really refreshing to me.
I feel, we know organizations, not in luxury, I don't know any, please tell me if you do, but in other industries where they have a North Star KPI, which is not the revenue and it's not the profit, because these are outcomes of what you're doing as an organization. But what is that North Star KPI that everybody knows and everybody is able to dissect into growth drivers? So that needs to sit somewhere, and there has to be someone who owns it in order to educate also the organization around it. So yes, you can have insights teams in different teams because yes, marketing will not look necessarily into sell-through the same way a buying team would. I understand that. But if I have a high sell-through, what does it mean? Is it because only the buying team did a very good job, or it's a creative team that did a very good job, or the marketing team did a very good job?
Initially, when you said, oh, marketing doesn't need to look at sell-through, well, actually, maybe there was a high sell-through because of the marketing tactics that were employed, and vice versa. Maybe lower sell-through are showcasing the fact that those products have been completely absent from the activations happening at the moment, or that they're not fit for the customer, that that demand is not there. And who knows about that demand? The marketing listening engine.
That's it. That's why I say you can have insights, you can look at reporting, but it's cross-functional. When a company grows, it doesn't grow only because it has a good product. Yes, it has a good product. It arrives on time. It has good people who sell it. It has good people who market it. It's an ecosystem. So if it's an ecosystem, there has to be some sort of North Star KPI and gatekeeper of that KPI.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I love that. I think it's so true. And then that can definitely help reconcile commercial and brand. Again, going back to how we started this conversation, that's how we can ensure that commercial and outcome stays present. But then in terms of opportunities and areas that you're mindful to avoid falling into, what are things that you're keeping your eye on those days that you wouldn't mind sharing with the listeners today?
I think it's very easy to get carried away by short-term signals, and there's a lot of competition out there. So I think it's very easy to mimic something that somebody else does at any level, right? So I think that would be my number one trap, to see that someone is doing something and it works really well, so I have to mimic it and I have to replicate it. But this moment has passed. So I think that's the trap, like understanding, okay, who you are, how you show up, and, somebody else showed up better than you at a given time, and that's fine. And then everybody has a moment to shine. But I think that idea of having a vision, and I'm going back to the North Star. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but that trap of not losing that North Star, don't getting distracted, don't losing faith, obviously course correcting when you need to. So it's not only that you have your North Star and you follow it and you never look right and left, but staying vigilant, but staying true to who you are as a brand and why you exist, and who understands you, who doesn't understand you, and what can you do about it.
Okay, that makes sense. And in terms of the store experience, all the brands that you've worked with are very much brands that have a wide store network, that physical experience is a big part of how customers are experiencing the brand. Where do you see that going? How do you see the value exchange going between the brands and the customer within that physical space?
I think we're going back to the stores being vehicles of storytelling. I think with the rise of digital and everything that happened in the world in the last 5 years, we tend to overlook the store. We think just store is transactional, and I think we're going back to stores not only being transactional, because the transaction can happen easier somewhere else. It can happen on social, it can happen online. You don't need the stores necessarily to transact, but the stores are where we meet the people who buy from us, especially in luxury. And when somebody comes in and drops 50,000 in one purchase, you cannot assume that this is transactional. So that's what I'm seeing. And you see also the DTC brands have grown exponentially this past years, are starting to open physical locations, even though the whole mindset and the whole structure is to be direct to consumer, so they wouldn't need a store. They are starting to open stores, pop-up stores, but also actual permanent stores. So I always believe that the store is a storytelling vehicle more than a transaction space.
I think something that I heard you say, which is interesting, is this is the space where we meet customer. This is the space where we can learn so much more about them, and therefore that's probably why D2C brands are also following now the legacy brands. Yet we don't really record this, right? This is about this meeting opportunity, this opportunity for engagement, for connection. And so maybe the last puzzle piece is how do we actually gather this data on this engagement, which is the deepest engagement that a brand can have with customer, is within their own physical environment that has been created to live that moment. And so do you think that that puzzle piece is really looking at how can we capture more insights there to continue fueling that machine and that strategic insight you were telling us about?
I think capturing insights, yes, it's one piece, but then where do these insights stay? Because, with clienteling applications that have been, I think every brand now has some sort of clienteling application. It's still to cater the store. We feel sometimes, okay, we capture this information and we stay within the store and it feeds the one-to-one communication with the clients. Yes, that's great. But then when we need to feed one-to-many communications, do we care about what the person has done in store? So there is room for that, to taking that store interaction and use it for digital interaction as well. And I believe that this is what customers would want. They would want the brand to speak to them in a uniform way, not only within the store but also across channels. I do believe that clients like to be targeted, and they do like to receive
Hot take.
personalized.
We want to see what is good for us. I like when people make my life easier, but and I think a lot of customers would agree.
Yes, if you send me something that resonates with me, I would like it. Why wouldn't I? If I'm looking for a linen dress, I would like it if you send me a linen dress. If you send me a leather jacket, probably I would not like it.
You were probably discussing your summer plans with the sales associate in store, and the online e-commerce experience is not reflecting that. That
Yes.
you're not going to stay in the city. Very interesting.
One of the most common arguments I have had with stores was the newsletters, the digital marketing to our clients. They will say, stop emailing my client. They don't want to receive newsletters. They only want to hear from me. Stop it. They complain. I say, listen, look at the data. The higher they're spending, the higher the open rate and the engagement rate of your client.
This is
We have
crazy.
the higher someone spends, it means that the more they want to hear from you, because they buy into your story, they buy into your product. So why don't you want to talk to them?
So they're very engaged, and you're saying that actually one would think that the one-to-one communication between sales associate and customer would be the only communication that they care about, and that they wouldn't care about what's happening on the e-commerce. They wouldn't care about newsletter and email marketing, but actually they do.
They do, and they do. We can see which newsletters the client was opening. So this information was available to the stores, and I was saying, look, you can see that your client opened a newsletter, so obviously they're interested in that story. So do your bit and sell it as well. Or stores would not believe that their clients are buying online. They would say, no, my client only buys with me. And I say, no, they are not. Look, they just spent 20K online.
Multi-channel really does apply in terms of transaction to your VIC customers. So within the luxury space, where we would think that it's really not as relevant, it actually is very, very much relevant. They would therefore want more personalization within the e-commerce channel and within the digital marketing channels that tend to be overlooked in terms of personalization.
Indeed. And that's the same also with advertising. We have stores saying, my client saw this on social advertising, in their feed. And they came and they asked, why didn't I send it before? Why did they see it first on social? I say, I don't know what to say to you. It is there. We advertise the product. We launched the campaign. It's out there. And it's a good thing that your client saw it. Doesn't matter if he saw it first on Instagram, on TikTok, and not through your message. It's fine. We all work, together. I think it's important to remember always that 20% of what you do generates 80% of the outcomes. The higher the spending, the more omnichannel the clients are.
Especially newer generation, obviously it's only gonna go more and more that way. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's also crazy. In some houses, still you can see that the retail and the digital teams sit differently, even within the same region. They are not under the same umbrella, even though the customer buys from both. But yeah, there's also work to be done, so it's good for us.
Well, thank you so much, Katerina. This has been such a well-rounded discussion. I'm so happy that we had the chance to do this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and good luck with everything. Luckily, we have you and the job you are doing to capture all this information we have been missing for so long. So yeah, thank you for having me, and I hope our listeners really enjoyed the chat.